Hey guys, so today's movie we're going to be talking about is the latest in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's called Eternals. I thought it was The Eternals, it's just Eternals. And it's written partly and directed by Chloé Zhao, who you guys might know won Best Director this year's Academy Awards for her film Nomadland. So yeah, I was excited to see what she could do with a Marvel Cinematic property. I mean, we've seen in the past before, directors can bring their own energy or style to a Marvel movie, like Shane Black very much made a Shane Black movie with Iron Man 3, and Taika Waititi made a Taika Waititi film with Thor Ragnarok. But with Eternals, is this a Chloé Zhao film? Look, I love Chloé Zhao. I think she's a fantastic filmmaker. I was a big fan of Nomadland. I'll pop a link up there to that review if you want to check that out. But I'm not sure her style is the best for a fun, action-packed, thrilling superhero movie. Her style's a bit more laid back and she's very character-driven, which I'm all for, but the Eternals, no, I just found it a little lackluster. I'm sorry, I wasn't blown away by this film. I wanted to love it, but I left the film feeling like it was good, but it didn't, knock my socks off. Regarding the plot, the Eternals are a bunch of celestial, immortal beings who have been protecting the Earth for about 7,000 years from these creatures known as Deviants, and when the last Deviant is killed, they all go their separate ways and live off lives on planet Earth. But when an apocalyptic threat threatens the Earth, the Eternals have to reunite in order to save the world. That's the meat and bones of the plot, but there's a lot more going on in this film than just that. And I think that's kind of the problem with this film, is that it bites off a bit more than it can chew, because for one, it's this large ensemble origin story, so it's a bit like Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's not as zany or energetic or hyperactive as James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a little bit more serious, a little bit more mellow, to say the least. But also, it is tying itself into the Marvel Cinematic Universe and trying to, answer questions which the audience is naturally going to have. Like, if these creatures have been protecting the Earth for 7,000 years, where were they? When Thanos was, wiping out half of the universe, with the Infinity Gauntlets. It does a good job of answering those questions. It's just there's a lot going on. And there's also a lot of questions that it poses about philosophy and ethics and the choices that these characters have to make, and letting humans evolve with technology, and where did they interfere, where did they not? It does pose some interesting questions, but for a film which is introducing a lot of characters, there is so much exposition and so many characters to try and get to know. And even with a 2.5-hour runtime, still don't feel like we got to know all of the characters as best we could. Just a heads up though, guys, this is going to be quite a slapdash review because I have so much to do today and I just need to bash this review out as quick as I can, so I'm just going to go through positives and negatives as quickly as I can. So, positives. I love the costumes, they were very vibrant, they were very pretty to look at, they're very well designed. The score by Raman Djawadi was very good, very epic. The performances in general were quite good. The standout performances for me were Barry Keoghan, Brian Tyree Henry, and Kumail Nanjiani. Barry Keoghan because he brings so much intensity to the role, Brian Tyree Henry because he brings so much emotionality to the film overall, and Kumail Nanjiani because he is mostly the comic relief in this film, and I thought he was brilliant in the role. And I will say this, even though I don't think I got to know all the characters as much as I would have liked to, every character does get their moment in the film, if you will. Also, the visuals in this film are stunning. I got to see this in IMAX, so there were certain shots, particularly when you see the spaceship, where my jaw was on the floor. It was stunning. I literally had to scan the whole screen. It was that big. Looking at this image, I had to look from one side to the other. Also, do stay for the mid-credit scene and the post-credit scene because they're definitely setting up some new and interesting plot threads there. Now let's talk about the negatives. What didn't I like about this film? Well, while this is still an ensemble film, arguably the two main characters in this film are Gemma Chan and Richard Madden. But I don't know, I didn't find them a very charismatic leading pair. They're both two phenomenal actors, but the characters were quite stiff. Richard Madden is just a plank of wood, granted a very attractive plank of wood, but he doesn't really get to flex his acting muscles properly until the last third of the film. And yeah, the first 2/3, he's just sort of this stoic, monotone plank of wood. I don't know how else to put it. And Gemma Chan, I had trouble connecting with Cersei. I don't know why. I wanted to be more invested in her, but I just didn't feel anything. I don't know, together as a pair, they were just kind of vanilla. Now, when it comes to cinematography, like I said, some of the shots are absolutely jaw-dropping, absolutely gorgeous to look at in IMAX, but there's something about the color palette of this film, which feels very dull. The aesthetic of this film overall, everything looks like it's been muted. As for action sequences, it's nothing we haven't seen before. It's a lot of the Eternals fighting CGI blobby characters, and it's, you know, fine for the first opening sequence, but after the first 2/3 of the film where they're constantly fighting these CGI deviants, it just gets a bit repetitive. I will say the third act action-packed showdown was a lot more exciting, but overall this didn't offer anything particularly new in terms of action like what we got with Shang-Chi. Also, when it comes to comedy, there wasn't a whole lot of that Marvel quippy banter that we're used to, and I actually think that's a good thing, but there were times where this felt a bit too serious and we could have used a little bit more levity, I think. Also, there is a bit of a pacing issue in this film, particularly in the middle. I don't mind a long Marvel movie because normally they zip by really quickly, you don't really notice the runtime. But this, I was very much aware of how much it slowed down, like in the middle part of this film, and it just felt a bit stagnant in places. So I was asked them 3 questions. Firstly, would I watch this again? Sure, I think this is a film where I need a second watch to try and absorb it a bit more because there was so much information thrown at me. So yeah, I will watch it again, but I'm not in a rush to watch it. Question number 2, do I recommend it for you guys? Sure, if you're a fan of the MCU, this is definitely a new change of pace for it. I don't think it's anything special. It's not a top tier Marvel movie for me, but there's enough good things about it to recommend it. So yeah, I do recommend it. Question 3, what score do I give it out of 10? The Eternals does rank on the lower end of the Marvel tier system for me, but even with the lower end of the Marvel tier, they're still good movies, they're just not great movies. So I'm gonna give the Eternals a score of 6 out of 10. But as always, guys, it's just one bloke's opinion. I would love to hear your thoughts on Eternals. Did you like this movie? Did you dislike it? Where does it rank for you in the MCU pantheon? What do you have to say about Eternals? Let your voice be heard in that comment section down below. If you've enjoyed this video, help support the channel by hitting that thumbs up button. If you want more movie, TV, and Oscars-related content, don't forget to click subscribe. And if you want to follow me on any of my socials, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, they're all in that video description down below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. For more things related to movies, TV, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Carefield, and I'll see you next time.